All right, so we're going to start our meeting this evening. Welcome, Town of Nottingham, to the Board of Selectmen meeting on Monday, July 27th. I'd like to call the order, start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to look over the manifest?
Yep.
Okay. Tyler? Did you have a chance?
Yep.
Okay. So, any issues? No?
I didn't have any.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest of 27 July 2020 and the payroll manifest of 28 July 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Has everybody got a chance to look over the meeting minutes from 7:13 and 6:15?
No issues with 7:13. I think I had already looked at 6:15 before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Donna?
Oh, yeah, I'm all set with them.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Should it be separate or can it be both?
We do both, right, Chris?
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as written on 6/15/2020 and 7/13/2020.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous? Okay.
I've never seen this before. In here.
That is, what, an added level of detail that you usually don't see?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the, yeah, she probably stuck it in there.
I don't mind.
Includes the tax and all that
I
stuff.
don't mind seeing it. So if she could send that to us so we actually had a chance to look at it, that would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. Assigned boards and committees, budget.
That's John. I can tell you, budget met last week. We did a quick town Q2 recap, similar to what we had done here
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks before then. I stuck around for the part of the school piece. The school's fiscal year ended June 30. I don't want to relay anything specific, but it felt to me like the year-end surplus was a lot smaller than last year's. So when we get the hard numbers, I think that's what that's going to look like. That was a big factor in the school portion of the tax rate last year, was a large budget surplus. You may recall that, surprisingly large. And
Yep.
they're not done, and again, this is just my second or third hand, but it felt like it was going back to its normal levels. That's where it was headed.
Okay.
You know, they have reserves and things to work through as a board over there, and year-end stuff to do with the SCU. But it felt like that's where they were at. Budget committee, what else did they do? I think I left after that. I think they elected officers, and I think Tim Dabrio was elected chair.
Okay.
I wasn't there for that part, so I think I heard pick that up along the way.
Did they talk about the need for a change in schedule?
Yeah, they kind of hinted at it. They didn't dive into it, but
Okay.
our change to SB2 is obviously going to affect them as well. They did note that. I think that'll be the main topic at their next meeting. Figuring those things out, how to do both school district and town now on that calendar is going to be
Yep.
tricky.
Yep.
Planning board?
Planning board, met last Wednesday. They were gonna have one case, the Mitchell Road case, that they asked for a continuance. And then they just did like a bunch of house keeping items, you know,
Okay.
but it,
CIP?
Not met,
No, okay. And then,
but is that going to be soon?
Yeah, I mean, we've started the process anyway by soliciting projects. So we go to the department heads and say, map it out, go to the school. That stuff's all been sent out. But I'd be
Right.
surprised if we meet before Labor Day, but unless you want
Okay.
to, but probably Probably not long after that.
Okay.
We'll be ready, I'll be ready to give everything to the committee, and you'll still have time to, you know,
Right.
use it before the budget season really is going.
Okay, 300th?
300, talked to Steve today, actually saw him in the building here, and they're attempting to get, Tony's working with him to get a Zoom meeting set up for him.
Yeah, I told him, talking about Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, I told him that when the time comes, you know, they want to make a presentation, they're gonna have a narrative, a script, they'll have everybody assigned who's gonna speak to what. And I just said, you know, let me know a couple weeks ahead of time and I'll set it up for you.
they're gonna unveil their cookbook.
And Marston? Nothing.
Grass is
They get
growing.
mowed?
Grass is still growing.
Does it look good? Haven't been by there.
Green? Yeah.
Nice.
I got mowed,
Did they get mowed?
field portion got mowed a week
Yeah.
or so ago.
Great. And town administrator report?
Well, I always give you bad news, let me give you some good news for a change. The bigger pandemic grant that we were kind of early in the pandemic, the state carved up a chunk of money and said every town gets so much based on this formula, and we were allocated 120,000. And I've been telling you all along that we're probably not gonna be able to spend all that on the eligible expenses.
Right.
Last week,
Hello.
revised eligibility for expenses came out. They pretty much swung open the doors and said, swung them open wide enough that we're not gonna have any trouble spending the full allocation.
Oh, good, nice.
On stuff that we would otherwise pay for, so that'll be a earn 20 in revenue that
Nice.
will really help fill our other revenue
Nice.
holes.
Yeah.
Gaps?
Nice.
Yeah.
And they stretched
news.
out the deadline. So we have a long period to do it and more things we can.
What are some of the things that we've?
It's pretty much any public safety payroll
Okay.
is going to be eligible.
Yeah.
So we'll run through it, no problem. Not that we're spending extra because of it, but we have eligible expenses already that we can claim that revenue for. So
Good.
we have had additional expenses, as you've seen throughout, but nowhere near 120,000, so.
Can we use that for, our AV improvements, or is it,
Yep. Yeah, that kind of thing is eligible. Yep.
Nice.
so we can preserve our franchise dollars?
Yeah, you're gonna be in a position now where there's enough sloshing around that whatever you take out of one pocket, you know, it's just gonna come out of the budget one way or the other. It's gonna feel more like you're just spending your own money now.
Good.
Because if you can take the money and reimburse yourself for, say, police payroll, you're gonna do that before you're gonna go spend it on something new and all likelihood.
Right.
Right, so,
Yeah.
you'll have some honest decisions to make about where do you want to spend money, but it will be, you know, that 120,000 is gonna find its way here now, no problem. Which is good. I think what happened at the federal level, I think maybe you were seeing this at work too, is
Yep.
they were not moving the money out fast enough. What they'd outlined was too narrow, and we were not alone in not capturing the full value. So the state was probably in a position of, if we don't use this, it's going back to Washington.
And that's less money you'll have in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
And it hurts you the next time around
Yeah.
when they do the formula again. So,
So with that being said, have they got any provisions and what could possibly happen in the fall, early winter? Whether it's suspected there's another round of this COVID,
no, I think they're waiting on Washington for another round.
probably after the election
I
then.
think they've probably
Yeah.
allocated or earmarked most of what the state was given in the first batch. Congress right now is working on the next wave, theoretically.
Yeah, okay.
They're talking like they are. So that's what there is for cities and towns. That I know that part of Congress's discussions right now, a big part of Congress discussion is aid to cities and towns, cities and states. So there may be more. The paving projects that we talked about 2 weeks ago have been contracted. Those are gonna start probably Labor Day week. And today we wrote to all the property owners on those roads, let them know what's coming. So that's on track. I think the finish work on Ledge Farm will happen about the same time. Same contractor, so I'll get out mobilized in town once. Rec camp, I told you, I think last meeting, their initial half-day program was not selling, people weren't buying into it, so they switched to that 6-hour, like a 9 to 3 thing. This week are actually full, and what they, you only handle about 24 kids, but that change worked, and they filled up. They're considering right now, with the delays in school openings, they may have the staff to stretch summer camp out a week later than they had anticipated. Usually they lose people, and so they're going to try and they're working to see if they can stretch camp out longer and provide, because there's still plenty of families that have that hole between when the camp ends and when school starts.
Have you heard from the school about anything about their opening, or?
No, they're working on it. I think they've spoken to the town about when to expect a decision. Parents of school-age kids know when that is.
My youngest is going in high school now, so.
Yeah, so you're,
I won't.
The only thing I've heard was that Co-Brown has made a decision to send it
Co-Brown's a go.
August 14th, but we're still waiting to hear from the Nottingham.
So that puts puts our after-school program, we don't know what our after-school program's gonna look like.
Right.
If it's gonna exist, if it's, we don't know. So they're gonna be in another scramble to get that ready once they see what the school is doing and what the school is interested in terms of that aftercare. Is the facility gonna be available for that purpose?
Right.
We don't know. I've told REC that if they need to come here to get that, if it helps to, move some of the program back here to make that service available to families, they can consider that if there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
Transport's gonna be really hard for the school, and so it's still a mess.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting too is Google came out today and said that they're going to have their employees work from home until July 2021.
Wow, that far out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for the employees, I guess,
Well,
right?
high-tech companies are probably going to start, other
Yeah.
high-tech companies are going to
They'll
start to make.
follow suit.
Yeah.
You can almost see the brick and mortars just shrink if this continues.
Well, the Comcast building where I work used to have 500, 700 cars. Nobody.
Yeah.
And it's a huge, gigantic building. There's nobody.
Problem is, right now, companies are locked into the leases that they
Yeah.
have. Right, my company has San Francisco and New York City. They're locked into those leases, and there's not a market to get out of them.
Fortunately, no. Not unless someone buys them out, and I don't see that happening either, but.
Yeah, so all those years of envy for commercial property in Nottingham.
Yeah.
We're gonna dodge that one. So that's after school. Concert series started last week. They're here again tomorrow night. That went pretty well. I think they had 40 or so
Oh, nice.
spectators. I think that was the number. But that was well received. That's and the Liar's Car show is drawing a big crowd. So I think they may be bouncing off each other a little bit. So it's busy around here on Tuesdays, even without baseball. They got 3 more weeks of that. And then lastly, this weekend was the water cross that we had talked about 2 weeks ago. You had approved electronically, after discussing it, you'd approved a license for this past weekend's event, which we got through, and I'd say we got about 90% of the way there in terms of a good package of things that we need from the event managers. We had some food trucks there, and they had an ambulance there on site, which I believe transported somebody yesterday. So
Broken leg.
that was a good thing to have there. We had a detailed police officer there. Chief Boss's report was there was more people there than expected, but no issues. Both days. Sunday was a little quieter than Saturday in terms of traffic count. I haven't got traffic counts from the event people yet, but our observations were that.
Did anybody here go on Sunday?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Did you go?
No, we were there Saturday.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to end with, was what you guys had, because I didn't go, and I just
Yeah.
wanted what your feedback on it was, and
Go ahead, John.
It was actually a really nice and pretty, for their first time there, it was pretty well organized. A lot of staff, a lot of people, point people in the right direction. I mean, they definitely weren't short on staff, and you could definitely tell who the staff was with their, shirts and like this, and there was plenty of space for everybody. There is potential for that to become a lot bigger, though. There's a lot of land there, there's a lot of, more potential to watch that grow. Because it's really, the viewing area from where you're sitting, you can stand all the way around the pond. I mean, it's great viewing, so I can see the attraction getting bigger. So as when we talked to, Officer Alvarez, is his last name? He mentioned the fact that he was gonna mention to Gunner about next year, if we do this again, 2 cops would be necessary. Just because if the crowds could get bigger, and if it gets more publicized and stuff like that. But he was very impressed with all the people there, being well received by him walking around. So he felt very comfortable in the area, which was good to hear. Going on with situations around, so, but there was nothing, we were there for a good hour, a little over that, and the VFW came over, from Epping and did a, salute thing, which was really nice, and it was, your American flags were everywhere, and it was what it was, but it was, their head count is gonna be something to be concerned about for the future. Their sanitation, they probably could use some more porta potties than what they had. But I'm sure that's stuff that they're going to be, tally, I hope that they would tally that up and realize for the comfort of the guests that they're having.
What was the, like, if you think about the available parking area, what kind of % of it was used?
Half, maybe?
Yeah, probably half.
Yeah.
How many, 250 people?
Ooh, there was more than that. When you
was
counted
only half.
staff and everything there, that was in there.
I mean, they had to be close to 40 people, maybe more staff. And they had these orange shirts, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
Walked in and they were greeting you when you came in, and then all in the crowd, and
What did they anticipate when we talked about it before?
250.
250 was
250.
was
Yeah.
their stated expected.
And it was more than that.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
but it wasn't,
but that's what they were, with the, not security, the workers. And then we went over to the, what do you call that, the pit road,
Yeah.
whatever. And you have all the teams over there, so they're kind of on their own, getting the sleds ready and everything. So there was quite a few people there. But when me and John, we walked around the complete thing, and then we looked back, and they only were using this much room of what you could use. I mean,
it had a lot
the
more
place is
space.
massive.
So, and again, I thought it was, nobody was on top of each other. It wasn't like you're walking shoulder to shoulder with anybody. And again, the parking area, which we got there at noon when we were there till 1, and they still had a lot more. They could have probably put at least another 150 cars in that one area. And there's another big field behind it, which who knows what that's all about, but, they could have stuck at least another 100 cars, 150 cars in there if they.
Are they looking to make this a big thing, or?
We kind of just checking it out, we didn't get to say, hopefully we could have, if this continues, that they'll actually come have a quick meeting with us or something to give us,
Yeah.
some future dialogue of what they think it's going to turn out to, or where their plans of action, so that we can be aware.
So we kind of heard about this at the last minute, and we kind of, came up with some parameters for permitting it, but what's the appropriate process moving here forward?
Well, globally, we need a good licensing process that would apply to this or any other potential event. never been faced with that before, so we threw it together.
Yep.
So that's the kind of the global thing, which I think we can do relatively quickly. But they, I suspect, want to, having gone through what is probably a successful event, they have scheduled 2 more this year, one in 4 weeks and one in 8 weeks, I think. They are going to want your approval to do that. They're going to need your approval in the form of another license to do that.
Are we charging for the license?
No, because we don't have anything in our fee schedule for such a thing. That's another thing we'd have to do in our, in creating a
Policy.
process. I can't just charge a fee without you building it in your
Yep.
fee schedule, so
Yep.
we'll have to build that in. Those are typically more cover your administrative cost kind of fees, not a
Exactly.
revenue
Yeah.
generating
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah.
the principle is, there should be something. So anyway, you are likely going to have a licensing decision on 2 more events this year. And if you are inclined to do that, if they're inclined to ask for it, which I think they probably are, and you're inclined to do it, we will take the feedback that we've got in the lessons from this weekend and adapt the requirements, more porta potties and more cops and all those things, and anything else we've learned to get through the short term of this season, call it, of 3 events.
Did he give you any indication of what next year would be?
Well, the next question is, okay, if you look at these 3 events as a season, and you say, okay, we've approved this at the licensing level, but this is really a different use of the land than what has been approved, it's gonna need to go to the planning board for site plan review and all of those things. So I guess if you want us to head in that direction, we would say, okay, we'll work out the licensing for the rest of this season of 2 events, and then hand it off to the planning board and say, if this is going to continue, give it the full site plan treatment that it deserves, because it has an impact on neighbors and
Yep.
and the land and all those things.
Yeah, I would support letting, the next 2.
Teresa, you're here and on the planning board. Were you listening to that?
I'm not on planning board anymore.
You're done on the planning board?
I am, I'm just on zoning.
All right, so you know the planning board. Was that a good synopsis of the site plan process and all that kind of stuff? Did you
Yes, and
listen?
there's a
I don't
whole-
know John's
there's-
fault,
He's been on it, she's been on it, he's been on it. Y'all know what about, but yes.
but- Okay, sorry to put you on the spot.
That's okay.
No, that's, I think,
I can tell you that the rule of thumb, safety speaking, you need at least 2 porta potties per every 100 people.
I was gonna ask that question.
Well, there you go.
I was gonna ask that question.
I don't know how many they had. They had a few.
They
but I
had
don't-
5.
I knew there had to be a public health rule on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had 5.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people, we don't know how many people they actually had.
2 per 100, huh?
Yes.
That doesn't seem like a lot, having spent a lot of time at
Not a lot.
cross-country meets.
2 porta potties per 100?
You
That's
have
what-
experienced nothing until you've been out in the field for a week with a group of Army people,
Oh, dear.
building a hospital and not having it emptied.
Oh,
Okay,
oh, got it.
They did have them emptied Saturday.
Thank you for that. Okay, so anyway, that's the, I think to go back to your question, you were opining on that approach.
Yep.
Before I took you off of that.
Yeah, but I just had a couple of other questions. I heard that they had some vendors there, food and all that stuff. There's obviously a code that has to be, did Dale go down there and inspect, or how does that work as a health inspector?
That was one of the things, we had a little bit of scramble around at the last minute. We had a couple trucks, we got some licensing information on a
Okay.
couple of them. That's one of the things we have to tighten up in the next
All right.
round of licensing. Good faith effort on their part, good faith effort on our part, but I think the paperwork wasn't 100%, but.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, and where we don't have a local infrastructure for things like that, like a city would,
Yeah,
we're kind of leaning on the state, and they actually sent us a Portsmouth license for one of the operators, so we at least knew
we're licensed.
there we go, there's a legit-ish.
Had fried dough, Italian ice, and
Yeah.
I don't know if there was a hamburger or?
Yeah, hamburger, hot dog, soul stand or whatever, and,
Yeah.
and it wasn't extravagant by any means what they had,
But
but
that could change.
But we asked them, I mean,
Yeah.
we asked them to consider local vendors.
Yeah.
You know, and Tammy there said she would, so.
So who sponsored it?
The sponsor's gonna be,
Was it Littlewoods?
no,
No?
Jewett.
they were a
Jewett?
sponsor.
Jewett Builders, I think.
Oh, okay, all right.
There was a bunch of signs up from
Yeah,
different
yeah,
sponsors,
yeah,
like
it was-
Little
I
Woods
just,
was
I just happened to
there.
know Littlewood's right by the road there, so that's the first thing I noticed. I didn't realize there was
Berkshire
others.
Hathaway, one of the.
Oh, yeah,
was
I did
them.
see
They
that
had
one
big
too.
signs for them too, and
So
Okay.
Chris, is there any, so we're kind of laying out two options. You know, one is to just kind of approve like this series and then go to the planning board. Is there any reason that we would want to treat those last two separately and say, we'll treat these next two events as separate events and permit them separately, just in anticipation that potentially something goes wrong with the second one?
Oh, sure, there's kind of two regimes of approval. One is your licensing under that goofy statute that we read last time, that anytime you do a competition,
Yeah,
the select board have to approve it. That's one path that has to be met. And the other is the land use regulation that would come with, that would prompt a site plan review.
yeah,
The licensing that you have to approve, we can absolutely do that. You know, event or weekend number 2 of the season and weekend number 3 of the season, and continue to learn as we go.
yeah,
And to see what their turnout is and all those kinds of things. We can absolutely do that one at a time. The
with
site
the
plan
intention
thing-
of, with the intention of, once they get past that third one, that they go through the planning board.
Yeah, and that will be probably more stringent and more in-depth and cover a wider
Yeah.
range of subjects. At the same time, we would, on the select board side, build a licensing
Yeah,
program that will work for any event in the future.
yeah, yeah,
That would, you know, we'd put that together over the fall and you'd approve it, and that would just be there forever. That as a, here applicant, you want to run a
Yeah.
parade or
yeah. Yeah.
a road race or whatever, here's your thing.
So the only thing I'm suggesting, is there any reason that we would want to, rather than just say, yes, under that license, the next two are fine?
No, just do one at a time.
one at a
Do
time.
one at a time.
One
Yeah,
at
and
a
I'll
time.
come back to you
Yeah.
and say, these are the things that we learned and we're changing.
Yeah,
And this
that's
is what
fine.
they've reported back to us. So if they want to go again in 4 weeks, I'll come back to you with another stage of approval for
Okay,
that.
fine.
Before then.
Yep.
And the same thing again for September.
But overall, I did think it was a nice event,
Good.
so I was pretty,
I think I told somebody offline, we got a couple of complaints about noise. The police department got one over the
I was gonna
weekend.
ask that, had to be some.
They got one on Saturday. Dale got one this morning or on voicemail from the weekend.
Was it because of after hours or
Um,
just in general?
No, it was more general, the noise level generally between the racing and the PA. And then I took a call today from somebody in Epping who is across the swamp and
Yeah, yeah.
was complaining about the noise. So that's the feedback that we've got so far from the neighborhood, so to speak. And certainly if you hear any more feedback, it would be helpful for us to hear that as we go forward. Or anybody in the public wants feedback, good, bad, or indifferent, I'll share that with you.
All right, well, it's pretty close to 7 o'clock, so you want to just jump right in on, Teresa?
Do I need to announce my name and address
Yes,
for
please.
the record?
Yes, please.
All right, Teresa Bascom, Stage Road. Thank you all for letting me be here. Appreciate you letting me be on the list. I'll read to you so I don't forget a thought. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, first and foremost, please know that I greatly respect your commitment to the town. I know you receive a small salary, but I'm sure the headaches often outweigh that. And as you all know, I've been a member of the planning board, as he just announced, and I'm currently on the ZBA. What has been the biggest headache for us, I'm sure you all know, it has been private roads, just as it was at the town meeting. And we've brought it up to the to the select board multiple times to have issues with the private roads taken care of. Yes, it's mostly regarded the building on private roads, but based on what we've been through the last few years with our meetings, our yearly town meetings, you know that it is a big headache there. At least last year, 2019, there was at the end of the very, very long day, there was a major discussion over the adoption of, I believe it was Moore's Road, which was, I believe, failed in that it didn't meet the major restrictions placed on it at that time of the meeting. That said, I must say to you guys, I'm hugely disappointed that you did not, in the ensuing 15 months, address the issue of the private roads and the adoption thereof. Even the most basic of requirements in place to protect our town over legal battles were not taken care of. I can just tell you that as a member of the planning board, as most of you have at least been a part of, even if it's been on a little bit of a basis, the subdivision regulations on page 63, number 15.4. For those of you who have your computers, you can look this up. Private roads are addressed on this, and it states, before an unpaved private road may be accepted as a town road, it shall be paved and brought up to town standards in effect at that time. Neither North River or Highland are paved roads, they are both gravel. Number 3 states that the road is to be brought up to a minimum design and construction standard should the road ever be considered as accepted by the town. You can't pass both ways on either one of these roads. I've been down North River very recently. I don't think you could even widen it. Number 4, it is the policy of the town that no private road will be accepted as a town road unless its design and construction meet the standards set forth in the article. It has been brought to multiple attentions that the standards are not specifically specified out here, except that it shall be able to be adopted by the town as a town road and paved. You've had an opportunity to add further standards to that, but have not. I cannot stress enough that your duty is to the town to get this done. At a minimum, I request that you consider the following. Have a clear deed. As most of you, well, at least 2 of you are on private roads, lake roads, so you know this issue exists for the lakies. The roads, the deeds to the town, the deeds to these lake roads are often not known. No one knows who they belong to. Otherwise, there would be associations. My daughter lives on a lake road, so I know associations do own a road and maintain it. We've had multiple cases where we've met as a planning board and even a zoning board with people on private roads, and no one claims to own the road. You can't adopt a road unless you know where the deed belongs, and this was not clear even at the town meeting on these 2 roads. Secondly, I suggest that you have an inspection by engineers stating that the road is safe for 2-way and increased traffic. Thirdly, I request that you consider a safety inspection stating that there are no clear hazards to these roads. And fourthly, I request that you consider stating that it is or can be readily paved in accordance with Article 15-4 of the subdivision regulations. I know you have a lot before you, but this is important to our town. You've got to start moving on the private road issues. I know you've got the lawsuit stuff. I'm not asking for it to be part of that. All I'm asking is that you look at these, you knew these warrant articles were on there, and yet you looked like you were totally lost up there. I mean, there's little side conferences with the lawyer and, well, we don't know this, we don't have that. Why didn't you, in the 15 months you had from last year's meeting, at least have a basic outline of what you wanted for town roads? It's not like this is a surprise. For 4 years running now, private road adoption has been on the town meetings for warrant articles. I just don't get it. I ask that you really and truly buckle down and take care of this. It's not going to go away. people, I don't know if it's because of the building permits, want these roads adopted by the town, or if it has to do strictly with the plowing and maintenance. Maybe it's a mixture of both. I don't know what it is. I don't live on one. Did as a child, we took care of it. But anyway, it's now come before you guys, and you need to put up and take care of this, because you're not serving the town well, especially when we end up with extra legal fees based on these issues. I thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for me?
Not to be argumentative,
I'm not asking you to be.
okay? But remember, the people that live on those roads are town residents.
Oh, I know that. I
So
fully
when
know
you say
that.
we're not representing the town, they are part of the town, so we do have to show them representation also.
Yes, they are part of the town.
That's all I'm saying, just
Okay,
when you're referring that we are not representing the town,
That
by your
town-
statement, we are representing the town.
my reference to that was the town as a whole, in that when we are adopting roads that don't meet standards, that require extra monies out of the town, when they serve a certain number of people from a private road, when it was their choice to build on a private road, number one. Number two, these private roads were built and developed to service people that are on lakes or off on certain areas. I didn't live on a lake, but I did live on a private road. There were 3 other houses on there, and let me tell you, there were winters where, or springs, I should say, where the car sunk up to the floorboards on it, but we took care of it. We took care of it. We pitched in. So I understand that, and I understand they're taxpayers, but when you're taking money from the larger town to now fight legal fees, take care of deed fighting, take care of maintenance on these roads, to bring them up to a standard which our subdivision regulation states we should not be
New
adopting.
subdivisions,
Ours.
new subdivisions.
No, it doesn't follow under new subdivisions. If you read this guideline, it does not state specifically new subdivisions. It addresses private roads in general, and states further that it is the policy of the town that no private road will be accepted as a town road unless it's designed and constructed to meet the standards set forth. Does that say new? No, it doesn't. It says private road, period. And I'm going to also ask that if there is a conflict with you over the town road issue, that you step aside from it, because I don't want you being a holdback on it. I know you have no
Stepped aside
procurement.
from the what's going on with the lawyers. You're here just in front, and we're just having a general conversation, and I'm allowed to have that general conversation with you.
Absolutely.
So that's all we're having right now.
Fully.
We're
Never-
not voting
never
on
s-
anything, we're not doing anything, we're just talking.
No, I'm not saying for now, John. I'm saying that when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of this, if it's going to be a conflict for you, please don't be in on this, because, I mean, step back and be in on it as a member of the town and as a private road person with concerns for it. That's all I'm asking.
So if I could,
I don't want it.
if I could interrupt, just because I don't know if this is a productive conversation right now.
But I don't see that it's not, but if you want to interrupt, go right ahead, Ms. Stanis. Mrs. Stanis.
So what I was going to say is, I don't think you're wrong regarding standards. And I do believe the board's has fallen down.
Thank you.
And I probably don't agree with you on a lot of other things that you've said, but I do think the board has to move forward with standards.
Got to, and I know that, as I was sitting here earlier, I was listening to this discussion over the event that had happened this weekend, and the fact that you've got that to take care of by fall for something. So I understand there are going to be things that pop up, and will probably pop this to the rear, but maybe put up a subcommittee to start working on it at least, or take my recommendations. I'd be happy to hand you my sheet with my notes on it, so you can at least have something to go by. But please don't go to another town, well, a deliberative session for the town over warrant articles and look like, and have nothing to present to the town. I spoke up the year before on these, which is why there ended up being restrictions, I think. It influenced it some, I can't say specifically, but it influenced there being restrictions on Moore's Road being adopted.
By the way,
I didn't say anything this
It was
year.
accepted pending
Correct.
compliance with the standards. It wasn't voted down.
Oh, I know that.
And-
But it is still listed as a private road, so it was not adopted as a town road. This list of roads here still listed as a private road, and this is from this year.
And Teresa, just, if you recall, during that, we did attempted to try to put same provisions on these two, North River and Highland, as we did on Moore's Road, but they weren't, as you know, the residents of these roads just weren't having that. So it was outvoted, it was voted down.
Well, I understand that, but the other parts of it as being a clear, these standards that it needs to meet before it even comes before you should be in place. Like, okay, you want it to be a town road, does it meet this standard? Does it meet this standard? Does it meet this standard? If they say no, there's been no safety inspection, there's been no engineering inspection of it, and they don't, or they don't pass them, then you say, you can't even have this as a warrant article because it's not something we can vote on. You're not meeting what the requirements are in order for it to be considered by the townspeople, because you can't, or at least I shouldn't think.
Those
you
weren't,
should-
those weren't our warrant, those were petition warrant articles by the citizens, so it was nothing for us to vote, say we could say or not say.
But you mean to tell me that if
We couldn't
somebody-
take them off the ballot because they were petitioned, they were by the people of the town to put it on there.
You mean to tell me that if I came before you and said that I think we should buy AK-47s for everybody in town and then pass them out, and I got 100 signatures and brought it before you, that would end up on the thing and be able to be voted on, even though it's not something that's legal to do?
Well, if it's not, I never been in
I
that
mean, we
situation.
don't, if it's a petition warrant articles and there's a signature, it has to go on, right?
Yeah, you're underestimating the strength of, the legal strength of town meeting. Town meeting has the authority to do many things. One of them is to accept roads. And a legally certified petition that, is clear enough, and then in these cases, and with Moore's and with all the other ones, they've been through legal review, and it's a binding thing. This body can't say, sorry, we're not putting that on the warrant. They don't have that authority. The petition process is there so that voters can get around the Board of Selectmen and go right to the voters. And that's what these petitions did. They met the legal test of getting onto the warrant, they went onto the warrant, and then town meeting voted on it as it was given to them in the warrant. That is, the crux of the matter is that town meeting has the authority to accept roads. That is the state law, and that is frankly what this board has been fighting for in that lawsuit, is to protect that right for town meeting to have the authority to accept roads. In this case, I think the board didn't agree with town meeting's decision exactly, but town meeting has that authority. And that's what town meeting voted to do, and that's what they are now pretty much bound by.
But you stated that it needed to meet legal standards. If the town has a legally approved set of standards that a road needs to meet, then wouldn't that petition not pass the test?
A standard written by the Board of Selectmen or the Planning Board or whatever of this is what you have to do to get accepted as a road. Town meeting can take that under advisement, but if town meeting says this is a Class 5 town road, then it's a Class 5 town road. That's pretty much how it works. There's maybe some nuance to that, but generally speaking, that you can't restrict town meeting's authority like that ahead of time, which is what you're suggesting that the board do.
How do you adopt a road that you don't even have a deed for?
We're working on that now. We gotta figure out where that road really is.
But see, that should be part of the,
Yes,
that makes
that's-
absolutely no sense to me, that the town be spinning its wheels on trying to figure out how to adopt a road where you don't even have a clear deed for it. How can that, I don't understand how you can,
That was the point of the amendment that the board presented. They said, hey, we need to know where this road is, we need to know what condition it's in, we need to know that we're getting and the words clear and deed were
Yep.
spoken in the meeting, both for Moore's Road and these roads. That, what you just explained, is exactly the justification for the amendment that the board proposed to the meeting. You're absolutely right, we do want all of those things. We want to know what we're buying before we buy it. And you're 100% right. And those were exactly the kinds of things that the board was trying to address with the amendment to the Moores Road article last year and the amendment that failed on Little River Road and the Highland Ave votes this year. If that amendment had been made to the warrant article, the things you just raised are exactly the kinds of things that the board would have said, show me where this road is, show me that you have a deed, show me that you can give it to me.
And that's when you should say you don't meet any of the standards, we can't accept this road.
Town meeting is stronger than those standards. If the amendment had put that little bit of conditioning on the acceptance, that's exactly what would have happened here. And that's what will happen with Moores if Moores Road comes forward and says, okay, what are your standards? We want to become a town road. We have the town meetings vote, and it says, subject to the board's standards. Those are exactly the things that you just explained are exactly the kinds of things that will be in a set of standards for a road.
So,
That opportunity isn't there for these two roads because that amendment didn't pass.
so is there any sense in you guys even spinning your wheels to do standards if the people can scoot right around them and have whatever adopted? I mean, we could go before you and have a small trail adopted as a town road, and I want it paved for a bike path, and then you'd have, if I got enough signatures, you'd have to do it, right? It doesn't make sense to me if you can't, I don't understand that.
I appreciate that, but that's, generally speaking, that is the power of town. The town meeting has the power to accept Class 5 roads. Now, in practical terms, if there was a set of standards that the board could point to in town meeting and say, this is what we're talking about, it would probably help politically, but legally, it doesn't really matter.
And the lawyer can totally say there that all of this said, it doesn't really matter if you vote it through, we have to adopt it. That makes no sense to me.
Well, that's the power of town meeting. That is, town meeting runs the town, and these folks run it in between town meetings. But there's some things.
You mean the 200 or 300 that show up to town meeting run the town? Not the town meeting, because that's not even the whole
I
town.
totally understand that you're looking at it like the world is upside down. And I totally understand that's where you're coming from, and if I got to have an opinion, I would agree with you, but I don't get to have an opinion. So if you want to talk about it more, I'm happy to show you all of
No.
how that all works, but town meeting has the authority to accept roads.
And I always thought that the town meeting looked for the good of the entire town, not just for a select few, but that's being said, I guess.
Depends who shows up.
Town meeting's town, you know, they decide how much is gonna get spent, they decide what to do with town property, the town meeting is very powerful.
And now we're under SB2, so maybe this won't even happen anymore, but
That's what I think that you're gonna see a different results now that, like you said, it's not gonna be 200 people on some warrant articles and then 30 people on certain, because everybody starts leaving. Now
Right,
everybody has, and nobody has anything to say now because like everybody has the opportunity to go, when you go do your thing, vote.
all right.
Anything else, Teresa?
No, I've taken up enough of your time for something that apparently shouldn't have even been discussed. I apologize, but
No,
I was floored and I had to come in and at least say that to you.
Appreciate
We
it.
appreciate it.
Thank
You know
you.
what? I'm happy you came in and said it instead of just complaining about us back in the
I don't do that.
liars or whatever.
And I don't go to liars to complain about anybody. And let me tell you this, if I'm going to complain about you, you will know because I will say it to your face.
Yeah.
I don't talk behind people's back. That accomplishes nothing.
Thank you, Teresa.
Have a good night.
Did you want to jump right into the chief, or just?
Yeah, why don't we?
Yeah, we're done, I don't have anything else for you for public session. unless
Well,
you
we
got-
have,
We got some assessing stuff.
Yeah.
Right, thank
but
you.
we can do that after.
Yeah.
We can go with them and go
Well, we're
after
gonna go into non-public for him,
No.
so bang this out.
that. Okay,
All right, all right.
fine.
There's no action items on the minutes from last time, so we can skip right past that.
I don't, is that,
Assessing?
this is the signatures for all this other stuff we're gonna do, but didn't do what we were supposed to do with that.
Okay, so this is towns for generations have had the opportunity to use this PA 28 inventory form where you basically ask people to sign something every time a piece of property changes hands. We haven't done it here for years. DRA asks us every year,
Okay.
are you going to do it? Are you not going to do it? We haven't done it for years.
Okay.
And they make us
Fill that out every
re-up
year.
that decision every year.
Okay. So this isn't a vote or anything?
Sort of. It's close. Once a year needed
Close
or
enough.
not, once a year needed or not, inventory.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So we're going to be talking about assessing. As Tony pointed out, there's no action review items.
Yep.
What can you tell us about these timber permits? Is there any backstory to it?
It's all pretty,
Yeah.
Straightforward?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that the select board approve the following timber permits for map 67, lot 13, map 67, lot 2S1, is that right? And map 66, lot 66, comma 1.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Right.
Unanimous? General business, highway,
Right. We do have other public business. Just a quick update on the facility stuff that I brought to you last week, 2 weeks ago. The air quality concerns in this building, we've contracted with RPF Environmental to come do an on-site inspection and some testing, and lab report. When we get that, that'll take over about 3 weeks total. We'll get that to you when it's done. The fire safety inspection in this building, the lighting stuff has been corrected. A couple of the bigger things like the chimney question, we clarified a couple things with the inspector, and they aren't actually issues at all. That leaves a couple hole patches and a couple door things that we've hired somebody to fix. And I found somebody who can do all of it, so we're just about done there. And last is the water at the highway shed. You've seen a couple quotes on well digging. We've got, the water source being the river. They're going to dry again this spring, and the realization that water quality could be contributing to some employee health concerns. The only real solution there is digging a well, so that's what we've solicited proposals for. You've seen those electronically. John raised some questions about the pricing on the one that we were leaning toward. And I don't know if you saw my response to that today, John. The biggest difference is the time between now and when we get the actual well drilled. We've got Tasker Well and Pump Well and Drill has put a truck at the garage that is acting as our temporary solution. We've got clean water now flowing into the building. That's going to be there until the well's ready. It's built into the cost. The other vendors, both Comac and the one you referred us to, Smith,
Yep.
are about 10 weeks out minimum on scheduling. So between, so if you take the cost of the bridge solution, which is about $1,000 a month, that closes the gap a lot between the lowest price we saw. We're still waiting for a price from your guy, Smith. Sean reached out to them today. But we know that they're not ready. They won't be ready for about 10 weeks minimum. And the second difference, the other bid that we got, Comac won't let us do our own trench work. We were going to dig our own trenches to save some money. They're not interested in doing that because they don't want to bicker about the, you know, the quality later, so. So, pending final numbers from that third bidder that you connected us with, we're still comfortable with Tasker. They're gonna be drilling in about 2 weeks instead of 10. And we're ready to go forward with that, but we will wait and see what that cement number looks like. It's really dramatically different. I think that's the full update on that. John, did you see all that in writing today?
Yeah, I read it, everything you wrote me up. I just still think it's amazing from a residence to a town, the difference in pricing for what you're drilling the same well. It blew my mind to be that.
Yeah, on a per foot difference, it's
Right,
a big
if it was $2 or something a foot, I probably wouldn't have said anything to it, but when you're talking
No,
four
you're
and 7, and you're
absolutely
talking about
correct.
hundreds of feet, it starts to add, you know, and it's,
Yeah, so what I'd like to do is get that final number from them and share that with you before we pull the trigger on anything, just so we can get a good apples to apples.
I know we need to get it done, it's just,
Yeah, it's that cost of the bridge solution that makes us nervous. We don't want to lose that bridge capability. There, you know, the contractor that we have lined up is the only one that's offered that solution to us, so, you know, we don't want to go back to what we had, so.
was it proven by a doctor that that was the case? Was it from the water?
No, that's the kind of thing that takes a while. to,
Okay.
And something better discussed in non.
Okay, good.
Anything else on that?
Okay. Have other questions on it. We're ready to go, but I'll give you those final numbers once we sit.
Oh, and what about the bid on the electronics replacement?
Waiting on the vendor.
Okay.
Yeah, Kelly hit them last week, poked them
All right.
on it again.
Can you send that to me when it shows up?
Absolutely.
Because I've got 2 other places to get, that we can get bids from just for comparison, so.
Okay, review action items for next meeting?
That's what Tony said. we did.
No, from last time.
Last one.
We're talking about
Now-
anything for next meeting,
Oh, sorry.
any homework items.
I don't have anything other than maybe just come up with, start thinking more about the permit process and,
Yep.
you know, unless, Tyler, you want to add anything, or
No, that's okay.
Tony, John, Donna?
I think we gotta do it
Okay.
season by season, and then if we get through this one, have them go through the whole gamut of the planning board, I think, so.
Okay. All right, well, then, that is it. Somebody want to make a motion to go in
What letter? For non-public?
non-public, A3 to
A?
Like, how hard would it be to write the explanations on this?
How do you want this document to be?
Well, I want it to make it easier so that every time we're not sitting here going, ooh, what letter is it?
All right, I make a motion that the select board enter non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, section 2A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Roll call vote.
Hi, Donna Dennis.
Aye, Ben Bartlett.
Hi, John Warren.
Hi, Tony Dumas.
Hi, Tyler Eaton.
Thank you, Nottingham.
Good night.
Gonna close the